Hello, hello. Hopefully, I just realized my mic was on the whole time. You might have heard me munching on a little bit of food. It's been a very busy day, so I've had back to back stuff going on, and I was just trying to get a little snack in before we start going here today. Um, I'm hoping some people will show up. If you're watching this recording, then I forgot to put up the schedule for the live stream, so YouTube just got that earlier today, so people may not have had it on their radar to show up for the live stream today. That and it's at a little bit of a hard time depending on what time zone you're in. I'm on the Pacific West Coast, and it is 4 p.m. here, which means across the United States at least it's 5, 6, 7 p.m. depending on what time zone you're in North America, not just the US. So that can be a little bit of a harder time zone for some people. Welcome. My name is Misty, and this is Crafty Soup, and this is my once a month live stream where I open up some mystery supplies and put them to use on a crafty project. All the supplies are related to card making or scrapbooking in general, and so those are often the projects that I will do. But you never know what you're going to get with this project. So that is what we're doing today. I just want to get a little bit of business stuff out of the way before we get started. If you did happen to find my live stream at random and you're not already subscribed to my channel, you won't be able to leave me any comments in the chat until you've been a until you've been a subscriber for at least 20 minutes. That helps keeps the trolls out because I am moderating things and filming all by myself in my studio. So that is why you can't leave a comment if you're brand new here. So go ahead and subscribe right away, and once that 20-minute mark hits, you should be able to leave me a comment. And if you find this isn't your jam and you want to unsubscribe, feel free to go ahead and do that. That is perfectly acceptable in how I view YouTube. So I do have a picker wheel to help us choose between 3 different categories of mystery products. I have a box that contains anything from ink to stamps to dies to, I've even had silicone tool mats there. So that is an option. I also have a pack of mystery 12x12 stencils and a pack of mystery 12x12 pattern papers. Well, yes, the paper is a mystery. I do know that it is all from the Simple Stories line of products. You can see my cats in the background, and I've got all 3 with me today, which is uncommon, and one of them gets annoyed when I start speaking and the door is closed. So let me take a moment to let him out, and then we'll get rolling. I know, kitty. Go on. All right. I appreciate your patience on that. And oh, I realize I'm still wearing my headset from a previous event, and I don't need that happening for this one since I can't hear any of you in this event. All right, so I've got my picker wheel set up. Let me go ahead and turn that on by doing this. All right, I can still see me, you can still see me, and here's our picker wheel. I'm going to spin this 3 times to choose one of those 3 categories. So it helps if I click on the right screen. There we go. All right, item number 1, is it gonna tip over? Oh, it just barely tipped over. So we've got some pattern paper that we are gonna work with today. Let's pick the next item. All right, normally I hear audio with the picker, and I'm not hearing that now, so hopefully all the audio is good. All right, we have the big box. And our final item is going to be, oh, are we getting 2 pattern papers? could be interesting if they really don't go together. All right, so we've got 2 pattern papers and a big box item. Let me come back over here. So let's see, I'm checking my audio. My mic says it's going, so hopefully it was just the picker wheel audio that wasn't showing up. Okay. I'm going to pull out the pattern paper pack and the big box. And if I switch camera views, there we go. You should be able to see me and my desk. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pick out of the big box first because it's big and it's in the way. And I try not to look or let touch lead me too much. And I just grab the first thing my hand touches. And it's very thin packaging, maybe a stencil. Oh, it is some rub-ons. I have not gotten rub-ons yet. Now this is a very specific theme. We'll see how all of these themey things can line up together. All right, that's the big box. And here is the pattern paper. And like I said, I know this is all simple stories, but what papers are in here, I do not know. So I'm gonna try and look away and just get one sheet at a time. Okay, we have Christmas and we have a plant lady. Well, the green works. Let's see what's on the other side. Holly. Okay, I am panicking maybe just a little bit. Let me reach in here and pull out that second sheet of paper. Oh, maybe not with the other sheets underneath it. Okay, I'm seeing a very neutral grid and it's green. That is going to be very helpful. And then what's on the other side? Okay, more cut aparts. All right. Phew. Something I can work with. Okay. Now, where do we go with all of this in terms of a project? Do I do a scrapbook layout? Do I do a card? Do I do some kind of home decor art piece? You know what? Okay, I was panicking at the Christmas stuff, but I do have a backlog of Christmas stories to tell because they're not my favorite stories to tell, and I usually put them off, and I do have a lot of them going on right now. So if I want to tell a Christmas story, what of these supplies could work? Apparently I've opened the package wrong because I've just torn straight into it. Okay. It looks like there's multiple sheets, but it also looks like the sheets are the same. Okay, so there's 2 sheets and they are both the same. In terms of a Christmas story, I think I could use a spool of ribbon and I could use the scissors if I'm talking about gifts or gift wrapping. Some of these succulents I may be able to add a few little berries onto and make them mimic holly or something along those lines. So that is at least an idea. Let me pull out my story binder. And if you don't know, a story binder is just a binder that I keep sheet protectors in, and I fill them with photos and notes and sometimes products for future storytelling. So here is my story binder. This one happens to be M, which stands for me, that's Misty, plus family stories that I'm telling. That's usually not specifically the kids necessarily, and I say kids, but all my kids are grown adults now. And so I'm not telling many of their stories anymore, but just like things that are more like me and my husband traveling or when the kids were with us, vacations, things like that. So that is my story album. And I know there are some medical pictures in here that nobody wants to see the details of, and I keep forgetting to cover them up. So let me grab okay, I'm just gonna grab the closest thing to me and cover up those photos so that you don't necessarily have to see them. Okay, here is my story binder. So yes, I keep little business cards, little notes that I've gotten, stickers from events, napkins from events. So it just really depends on the stories that I'm trying to tell in the future. And the biggest part is keeping notes with the dates and any important details that I want to mark about that story. Okay, let's go ahead and skip right over the medical ones and see what we've got. Okay, this is a story I haven't told yet about sewing costumes for a youth theater, and it's a gingerbread costume that let me see what the other photos are, because the gingerbread could work with Christmas, but I don't think the other photos necessarily. Oh, and then I've got some cat photos in there. Okay, I don't think that's necessarily where I want to go today. And as I'm looking for the story to tell, I will mention that I try to keep this live stream to about an hour, but depending on how things are going, I do give myself up to an hour and a half to work on things. So when I'm having a harder time like today deciding what to do, that might take us more over the hour mark and take us into the hour and a half mark. Oh, here we go. Here we go. These are Christmas stories from 2022. So I think because I found some Christmas photos, we're just going to go ahead and roll with that. All right. I realize there's some other things in there that might not be great to put on video, so I'm going to have to be a little more selective next time. Okay, I have these Christmas photos from 2022. So here is 4 out of the 5 of us in the family, and the oldest, the middle kid actually coming home for Christmas from college. So we don't always get to take our Christmas photos together, so it's nice to be able to get as many of us as possible. The oldest kid doesn't participate in family photos very often anymore, so I get what I get. So these are great photos to use. I do like this as being the background, and I do like this one that says Heart Home, but unless I choose something else to be the background, I don't think that will work. So let's get started by cutting off the branding strips, because we're not gonna likely use those today, although I do have a whole video on my channel of techniques to do with using branding strips, so I don't often throw them away. I do find ways to repurpose them. Okay, I definitely like this card, and it could be, I don't know, I'm going to cut all of these apart, and I'm going to make sure not to lose my notes so that I can date my photo or my layout in the end, and I will set that aside. I do have my comments open over here. If anybody does decide to pop in, I will be able to read your comments and chat back with you. Do I want any of these? Merry and Bright, you know, I just kind of like that this one's already pre-layered, so I do like that one. I might want to use this one as the title, but give it a little bit of a fussy cut because I think it's bigger than what I'm gonna have room for on my spread. So let me cut that one out. This one has ornaments, and we're in front of the tree. You know, let me just cut them all apart, and I might end up just kind of collage layering things together. All right, I am going to want some other color of cardstock so that I have some contrast between things and layers, especially to map my photos. Speaking of which, I'm going to need to trim this one down because this photo is in the orientation of a phone camera, which is not the same size as a 4x6 photo. It has a slightly different ratio to it. So I print it at full ratio because we're already being cut off on the edges from the camera because, you know, trying to get a quick selfie. I want to make sure I get as much of our faces in the photo as possible. And I did a bad job trimming that, so we'll give it another trim to get all of that out. Oop, we gotta cut these in half. All right. For some reason, I feel like my trimmer is slightly crooked, and that, or I'm just feeling too rushed. Yeah, like I said, it's been a super busy day. Trying to solve a bunch of tech problems in the background for other things. Oh, I'm gonna need that. That should sit over here. And my cats are making trouble currently, so I might need to send them out if that becomes a problem. Okay, cardstock. Let's take a breath. Cardstock. Okay, I want to mat my photos on something. And if I'm going to decide to use these images as like a collaged background, I am definitely going to want to keep my photos off of that busyness so that they stand out on my layout. I do like the idea of keeping this one off over here so that I can use it for journaling, or I might move it around a little bit. I am going to want to make sure there's contrast between my layers, so this green on top of... They're making trouble. Hey guys, let's go out. Come on. Come on. Out you go. Go on. Are you going? Go on. Okay, cat number 3 has decided to stay, but she will make less trouble if the other 2 are not here. So hopefully she'll just settle down in a minute. All right, as I was saying, contrast between layers. So the green contrasting against the cream, the red contrasting against the green and the cream. So that is what I'm gonna go for sure when I'm layering things up. This one, I said she would make less trouble, but I've lied. Okay, this one is in a different orientation, so if I use it, I could always trim it down also and make it closer up here to the title. I think I have plenty of options with the contrast, so except for I don't like these 2 together because this is more cream on cream, even though you have a little bit of contrast with the greenery. I think I don't want to put these 2 directly next to each other. This might be good if I put it down here so that the photos won't cover it up as much. And if I put my title up here, that'll start a diagonal flow to my layout. Okay, so if I'm putting these things together, I want to, oh, these birds are awfully cute though. Maybe I usually do a left to right diagonal flow. Is there any way I can do a right to left to diagonal flow so that I can get these birds on the layout? Let's see if I can make that work. Okay, and then maybe that one. And then maybe, oh, I do kind of want to see these words. I do like to stagger things also so that the undulation of the staggered lines creates a little more interest that I appreciate. Okay. Okay, I think that is looking pretty good so far. Let me go ahead and cut this out. And fussy cutting doesn't bother me too much anymore. It definitely used to be something I did not enjoy. But what I've learned that I appreciate is having enough of a border going around the actual image. So I try to keep a border. I didn't manage that with these ones, but I try to keep a nice wide border so that any differences in the border, like some places it's more wide and some places it's more narrow, they won't be as noticeable if you have a border. Like this difference between this wideness and this narrowness is going to be noticeable. Whereas if I have a solid border, you won't notice as much the difference between where it's a thicker solid border and where it's a thinner solid border. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I will just fussy cut this out and kind of end up with, you may be able to hear the other cat outside my door. I'm going to do my best to ignore him. It's very hard for me to do that, but I'm going to try because he will just make more trouble if I let him in. Okay, is it perfect? No. Am I gonna go with it? Yes. All right, that can go in the recycling, although, you know what? I might want to fussy cut some of the greenery to mix and match with my rub-ons. I think my brain will catch up with my body at some point during this stream, but so far it feels like it has not. Okay, I'm going to shift everything down just a little bit so that I have some more room. I'm not so sure these two pieces are going to show up very well once I layer the photos on. And in fact, I might cut these down further and purposefully layer them. And I know I said I didn't want the cream on cream. The other thing I can do with this is trim these pieces apart and use them as embellishments instead. Let me think about doing that. Now we have two Santas on here. I don't feel the need for both Santas. And I'm having a trouble with this diagonal flow, so I'm gonna put it back, and maybe I'll do the same thing with these guys and just trim that down, and then that will leave a space for my photo to layer. And I really don't feel like I need to see this other Santa since I already have Santa on there. So maybe I can, I really like all of these elements though, so I'm thinking I will shift things this way a little bit. Okay, this is real world crafting, friends, so I hope you are bearing with me with all of the decision making. Okay, let me cut this down. I'll make it bigger, and I'll probably have to trim it down more as I decide how it's gonna go. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna trim it past this letter D to make sure it will fit on the page. Okay, that will tuck just a little bit and give the impression that we have a larger piece than we actually do. Okay, Merry and Bright just about fits there. I think if I zhuzh things over a little bit, I can get those to fit. I think let's get these things out of the way because I'm done with those. Okay, so I did start by saying I want some cardstock to mat my photos. And I think I maybe just want to use white because a lot of these elements are creamy in color, but this one has a stark white. I don't mind mixing cream and white, but I like there to be a balance and not just have one stark white element with creamier elements. So let me grab some white paper, and that might be a good thing if I mat my title on some white as well. I'm going to pull this guy down a little bit, and that will give me a little more room for my title. And then I could mat my title maybe on some white as well. And I am missing a photo. There should be one more. It's got to be here somewhere. Okay, oh, there it is. We'll figure that out. We got it. And these photos can overlap since there's some empty space in there. And I think I like that. Okay, I think I've got the bones figured out, and we'll get everything layered up and adhered down. Miss Willow, do you want to go out? Okay, I found white. Let's go ahead and create some mats and see how I like it with white. I might change my mind. We'll see. I don't think I want to use red or green because it's getting too heavy into the red and green. I did a Christmas layout. I don't think it was the last Mystery Box Makes video. I think it was one before that. Or maybe a couple months ago, where I did a Christmas layout, and it was very heavily red and green, and that is definitely not my favorite. So my photo is 4 by 5.5, so I'm gonna make my mat to be 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. So that will give me a total 1/4 inch border, which will turn into 1/8 of an inch on either side. So there's my photo with its mat. Let's see if that's big enough. I might also pop these up on some foam. I haven't done that in a while. I often like to get my photos up off of busy backgrounds, both visually with mats and physically with foam. So I think I might grab my big foam roll. You know what? Let's try a bigger mat. I think I want more space. So instead of 4 1/4, let's go to 4 1/2 by a full 6 because the photo is 5 1/2 wide. Okay, and that will give us a bigger mat to work with. And because this is kind of the focal photo, I might want to give these guys smaller mat. We'll see how it goes. I do have a textured paper, textured cardstock, so I think I will use the textured side, even though that's pretty subtle. Okay, I like that better. I think that gives it a little more breathing room around the edges of the busy paper, and it helps bring it to the foreground more. All right, I have this other piece that is very similar in size, which would create a much smaller mat for my smaller photos, but it's also gonna read as a similar size and maybe give that a little balance since I'm not clustering them next to each other, which is how I really tend to like to do things. But because I want some of this element peeking through, I'm going to spread my photos apart a little bit more. So I want to cover up that Santa since we already have this Santa. I think that one is redundant, and that does leave me a little more space over here for this photo cluster. So I'm definitely liking that. Now, do I want to do this on top of, you know what, let's go ahead and give it a go. I've got some temporary adhesive in case I change my mind. And I'm going to mat this on here and just do a quick follow of this fussy cutting with another fussy cutting line. And this will give me a little forgiveness in fixing those lines that were a little bit too close. When I'm fussy cutting, I like to try and get as much excess paper out of my way as possible because I find that easier. If everything is easier to maneuver, I have more success all around. So I will, oop, that one got a little tight, but I am not going to worry about being perfect. And I don't think anybody should, because when you're looking at these stories down the road, people may notice, oh, that's not really even, but if it's bugging them, they'll keep their opinion to themselves unless they're just not nice people. So I think imperfection is just fine. All right, that makes me happy. And the imperfection, you know, since some of these elements are kind of rustic and distressed, the imperfection is actually working just fine. All right, so let's get some more permanent adhesive. I'm going to bring in the glue. I have not crafted in a while, so let's see how my glue is doing. Beautiful. I never put the cap back on my glue now that I own this glue press. And sometimes it will have, you know, a bead of dried up glue on the tip that I have to pop loose. But most of the time, even when it's been sitting for days on end in its cradle, it still is ready to go. Okay, I am going to get these glued down. And I am not gluing all the way to the edges in case I want to tuck any other embellishments around. Typically when I'm making live layouts, I don't embellish as much as I do when I'm not on camera live because there's a lot of thinking involved and that gets kind of boring. So during these lives, I tend to keep it simpler and glue and go and get my story told and be okay with that, because I like to preserve the memories. There are different reasons that I scrapbook. I do scrapbook because I enjoy the hands-on process. I do scrapbook because I like to make pretty things. But I also scrapbook because I want to get the stories saved, and that is, at the end of the day, that is the most important part to me. So whether or not I've added enough embellishments, that is not necessarily the important part. So I will keep my layout simpler for time's sake while we are live. And I can always add things after the fact because I have done that in the past. Sometimes, oop, that one went crooked on me. So yeah, sometimes I'll add things after I've shut off the camera because I see something that I missed while I was just chugging along. So okay, I do want to make sure I cover up the bottom of this so we still get the sense that it's a much bigger element than it actually is. So I do want to pull this one a little bit this way and pull that one a little bit that way. And I am going to use my chunky foam roll. So this is from scrapbook.com and it's the 2 millimeter thick. I think this is 2 inches wide and 2 millimeters thick. So it has some good lift to scrapbooking elements. I did used to have a much thinner foam roll, and I kind of like that one because then I could have, a thin layer of elements popped up and then double up my foam to have a thicker, taller layer of elements popped up for even more layers in dimension. But I kind of don't like having multiple foam rolls in my craft room, and I found I was often doubling up the foam, so I was going through that particular roll quite quickly, and I just switched to this, and I think I like this a little bit better, just because it's one and done. You just put it down and you go. All right, I think I'm going to pop up all three of these elements, and that is going to kind of give me a visual triangle while also pulling focus from the upper corner to the lower corner. So we've got kind of a mix of flow going on here. Let me get this one in place. And I'm checking the clock. Oh, I can slow down a little bit. We're doing okay with time. I was about to say that I will do my journaling off camera, and that's still true. I will do my journaling off camera because you don't need to see me sit and write, and it's hard for me to talk and write at the same time because I start writing what I'm saying, so that doesn't work. Okay, I pushed that over, and I don't like this gap that it's leaving, although I do have those other elements to use. I'm done with the white cardstock, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that back there. I do have these other elements that I can use for embellishing. So do I want to push that farther that way, or do I want to bring it closer in? You know what? I think I'm going to bring it closer in, but I am going to pop it up. And I like this bigger foam roll because I can make smaller strips or even smaller squares if I need to. And this is a really good non-stick pair of scissors. This is the Spellbinders 9-inch shears, and they are great for cutting foam without gumming up, because that was something I used to hate. Using foam rolls, I always had foam sheets of dots or squares because I hated cutting the foam because it would gum up my scissors. But this combo is working a dream for me. All right, let me get this one popped up also. I am just about out of water too from my last event, so I need a drink, but my water, let's see if I've got a sip in here. Nope. Oh, the tiniest of sips. Oh, I have a cup of coffee over there. I set it on the warmer so that it would be ready for me when I was done with my last event, and then I got sidetracked with solving some other problems, and I didn't have a chance to drink my coffee. All right, that is making me happy. That is making me happy. All right, let's see what we can do. I'm going to cut off the phrase because we can use that as a separate embellishment element apart from the ornaments. And we'll see if we can work that in somewhere on the layout. And I can either make a fishtail banner or just trim off the edges if I want. I do want to cut out some of these guys and then fussy cut these guys. So that's where we are at with that. Let's see. I am just going to, you know what I just thought of now that I started cutting is that sometimes if elements they're small elements and they have lots of nitpicky little nooks and crannies to them, sometimes I just like to punch those out with a circle punch so I don't have to do as much fussy cutting. And I'm thinking that's probably what I wanted to do, but again, It's not going to be perfect. I'll just have to be okay with that. And speaking of not perfect, this one is right up against the edge of the cardstock, so it has a flat edge, so I can use that to my advantage if I want to tuck it up against the edge of an existing element, either the edge of the paper or maybe tuck it under the edge of something else. That would be the best use for that one. Trying to clean up as I go because my craft space was an absolute disaster after last month's live, because I just kind of knocked everything everywhere, and I regretted that after I was done. I didn't want to make you guys watch me too much cleaning as I was working, but man, the mess afterwards was real. Okay, do I have enough? Oh, this one looks good. I'm just gonna rough cut out the keeper ones and then get rid of the rest of this so it's out of the way. Speaking of cleanup, okay, so this one is cut off on the edge. There's a couple of different techniques that I could do with that one so I don't waste it. I mean, I've already used the paper, so is it really wasted? Ooh, I like this because remember I talked about maybe cutting out some berries to add to these, I think, and I'll grab that circle punch I mentioned to do just that. I have this nice teeny tiny circle punch that I can create some little berries with and make my awkward succulents blend in with a Christmas layout. And I'm just gonna punch out a handful of these because I don't know how many I'm gonna want or need, and I'll just have plenty by my side to work with. I'll do a few more just to be sure I've got what I need. Okay, that's good. Now the other thing that just crossed my mind is maybe cutting a teeny tiny banner, like teeny tiny triangles to create a banner. I'm not sure I want to go there, but it is something that crossed my mind. I do, however, want to get these adhered down so they stop moving around on me. So I know where all of my elements are going to sit. Okay, I like to try and nestle curves and corners around other elements. So trying to nestle this around Santa's head, and then trying to not have too much awkward space between these things, not hiding too much of that. Let me think about how I want to fill in some of this space. Okay. I think we'll make it work. I have some ideas. Again, not perfect ideas, but we'll roll with it. Okay. That is there. Let me get some of these elements cut out and tucked around the layout so I don't forget them as we get farther into this process. The words say cactus, jasmine, hibiscus, and orchid. None of those words I think will work for this layout, so I am just going to cut those off. And set them aside, and I did. Say I wanted to try this ribbon and these scissors as potential elements. So I'm gonna make sure to save those, and then we've got one more bigger pair of scissors that I could include in here. I'm thinking about this element and thinking about, like, most of us wear glasses. That's kind of as far as I've gotten with that thought process. Whether or not I can connect the dots, not so sure. So I will let that keep stewing in my brain and set that off to the side in the meantime, along with the full sheet. And we'll keep cutting out these elements. Okay, these ones are, it's going to be a little tricky to think about the ribbon on these. And what I might want to do actually is go ahead and go to my stash and get some actual twine and put on some real twine and just cut off. Do I want to cut off the whole bow? I'm going to do it. I'm not sure I want to do it, but I'm going to do it because those bows are awfully cute, but I do not want to fussy cut around them. So I think getting some real twine from my stash would be a choice that would make me happier. Okay, so there's one. Now that I've decided to cut out those bows, I can give that a much rougher cut, like I said, because less paper in the way makes it easier for me to maneuver around everything. And if you haven't heard this a million times, when you're fussy cutting, you want to move your paper and not your scissors. And when I first heard that tip, I thought, how much could that actually matter? But for some reason, it does. It makes it so much easier to rotate the paper than it does to rotate the scissors. And maybe it's just because the scissors are larger and heavier. Maybe it's because your hand is in this cramped shape holding the scissors. But when I maneuver the paper, I have a much, much easier time. So I'm keeping my scissors mostly straight and I'm tipping the paper into the blade. Now, when I get to places like this, I do tend to have to move the scissors in the tighter corners. But it really is helpful to move the paper. And I feel like I can get, especially on curves, I feel like I get a little bit of a smoother process because I think the friction of the scissors grabbing onto the paper kind of helps pull it when you're moving the paper so that it's kind of pulling it into that curve. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's just trying to describe the sensation that are in my head as I do this. Okay, more cutting apart. Okay, I like those two as a group, so maybe I'll leave those together. I'm not sure how I'm going to make the scissors make sense in here, but maybe if I just put them next to the ribbon, that makes sense as a tool that will be cutting some ribbon. Do I need two pairs of scissors? Probably not. Okay, where do I want these elements to go? I don't have a lot of them. And again, I'm thinking about the contrast. This one has a lot more white against this solid green than this one does. So that might make sense up there. I can also overlap the photo a little bit with some of these elements, and that might make sense if all rub-ons are slightly different. Some of them, if you take the backing off and then touch it, it will stick to you. This one didn't do that, so that's good. But you do have to be careful with rub-ons like that. Okay. I'm thinking about that, because that seems to work okay. I could put both of these up that way and maybe add, when I add something to one area, I really like to add it to something similar. It doesn't have to be identical to another area. And because I have a limited supply of embellishments right now, I could go grab some more stuff, but if I'm trying to work with what I've got, then it might make more sense to just put one of everything in there. Now I'm testing out these little berries for my succulents and I'm not convinced. I could use them in place of like sequins instead and just sprinkle them around and not try to fake them as berries. So that is a possibility. I could just ditch them all together and go get some sequins. I'm definitely not happy with the border on these, so I'm not sure what I want to do with that. I do like that I have some ribbon up here, even though it's a printed ribbon. So do I want to go all in with the idea of ribbon up here, or do I want to, like I said, spread some of those icons around so that they share space with the rest of the layout? Okay, I kind of like that one tucked up here. This is the point where we just need to make some decisions and go. So I am going to start these rub-ons. Let's see, I like the rotation of this one this way. So I'm going to put that one there and get it. Let's see how easy these ones are to work with. Usually with rub-ons I can start to see them detaching from the plastic because it kind of changes colors as they begin attaching, and I feel like I can see that happening. Let's grab tweezers to see if that's the case and work slowly so we don't tear them if anything's not attached all the way. Now this part didn't attach all the way because it was way under the photo and I didn't reach it, but I think these are really easy to use. That process was super simple. I need to remember the brand of these. Oh, Craft Consortium. I've used some of their products in the past and I will keep their products in mind for the future in terms of rub-ons because that was super easy to use. Now, do I like this here? Because I don't want to create awkward spaces. This is called trapped space. And trapped space tends to draw the eye just because you have that feeling of being boxed in. It's just kind of a psychological thing. And so it draws the eye there and causes problems with viewing things. So I could open up the space a little bit by moving things over. I'm not liking that solution either. I'm going to set that aside and keep thinking about it. Some of these things work in the background of my brain while I'm doing other stuff. So I will layer this one up and let's see how fast I could be with rub-ons. Is that enough? That was enough. I am impressed with these. Definitely impressed. Okay. I want to not run into my other rub-ons or lose any of my ornaments while I keep working. So let me get these up here, and again I want to try and prevent that trap space from, if I put these like this, it's going to create trap space right in here, So I want to leave a gap in between things so that those elements don't feel, you either make them all tight together so that they're all touching, or you spread them out so that there's border room around things. And that's just one of those design principles that I have found definitely works for me. Probably wanted to put that up the other way because this one looks upside down, but I'm just going to go with that also. Let's see if that is enough pressure. Oh, I'm having a hard time with this release. Probably because I cut it a lot closer to the image, and so it's all just kind of sticking. Nope, that one did not get all the way. So these little fine pointed edges definitely need a little more attention. And that mostly did the trick. Okay, I did miss some of the edges on this one. Let's keep trying. All right, okay, so I mean, they're still rub-ons. You still have to be a little careful with them. You know, I think as a little background element, they're working. They don't scream succulents to me, so that is good because I really thought they were going to be a little more noticeable and obvious than that, especially when I cover up half the thing anyway. I kind of feel like I could add some more in here. I'm going to just put a tiny bit of glue on the side of this one and glue it in place so that it stops shifting around on me. And I could grab some more of the foam and tuck it under, but I'm just gonna cheat. I'm just gonna cheat and let it be like that. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Just a little bit of glue so that it will dangle off the edge of my photo this way. And then what do I want to do with these? I feel like if I mostly hide them, they will bug me a lot less. And maybe I'll mostly hide them so that the berries are showing up more than anything else. Or, okay, I'm telling you guys that you don't have to deal with perfection, but there are times when things just don't feel quite right. And I really want to eliminate some of this very obvious edging. Okay. Because I'm going to hide a lot of that. That feels much better to me. So just a very minimal adjustment and it's making it work. Okay, I probably will not fussy cut all of these on camera, but that's going to be the idea, that I will trim more of these out and add them around different parts of the layout so that I get a little bit more of those berries peeking through. And I can even kind of bring some in from some of the sides. Okay, that one is trash. Oh, that is a berry. Okay, so I think that is the placement that I have in mind for these elements, and I will fussy cut those off camera to get them tucked in there. Do I want to use this at all? I could add it. I like that. I like it on top of the photo. So I'm just going to trim it straight let it be its own thing. And it's going to bring a little more attention to these birds that I saved. And I do definitely want some foam under that one. So it's a little too thin to be able to stand up well on its own. So let me pull in my scissors and try and get a wee wedge of foam. Wee wedge. Okay. That's going to be too long. So not those scissors. And then when I have little pieces left over like this, I just stick them on the side and I hang it on a hook on my pegboard on this wall, and that has been brilliant for the foam tape. Okay, let me get a tiny bit of glue on this one so that it will stick to the photo. Oh, without it sticking too fast. I do want some room to get that in place. That's in place. Okay, do I want to, this is popped up, this is popped up. I think I do want a little bit of foam under this one to give it the same dimension as the others. So another wee wedge of tape. Work for that. Okay, I really like that ribbon rub-on, and I do like the scissors rub-on, so I'm trying to think about where I could fit these in. I could add them into this clustering element, maybe. Or just do like I said and go all in. Okay, I kind of like this. If I go in with adding more ribbon to ribbon, it's kind of growing this whole cluster here and anchoring it to each other. So I think that's what I'm gonna do, even though rub-ons tend to be a little bit sheer and you can see through them. I think that'll be okay, because you'll see it without it dominating, and we'll have the button and other elements dominating, so it feels like it's adding to the cluster without taking over. And I did miss some of that, so let's see if I can fix it. That worked. Okay. Okay. And then maybe, oh, see, it's stuck to my finger. What I said earlier is that you've got that sticky of these elements. I don't know if I can fix that, so maybe I can hide that. Maybe if I hide it up here. Okay, while these rub-ons are nice, they are definitely not magic. You still have to be a little careful with them. Treat them like rub-ons. Do I want to add another pair over here? Sure. There, that'll work. And that definitely physically connects these layers, because I am overlapping those two journaling cards. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let me get this mess out of the way. All right, I do want to grab some ribbon, so give me just a sec. Okay, I pulled out a few options, and in fact, I'm still holding on to a bin of ribbon, but I grabbed silver, I grabbed more neutral, I grabbed some green leafy, which I really like. This is a velvet, but the color of it is definitely way more pastel than anything else on the page. Even though I really like the texture, I think that one will not work. Could I make these leafy trims work? I don't think I'm gonna make them work for hanging my ornaments, that's for sure. And you know what? I'm going to create a little bin here of these pieces that I still need to fussy cut because I feel like those are gonna get lost as I'm moving stuff around. So let's keep those pieces safe over there. All right. Do I want to add some of this underneath? I'm kind of thinking yes, I do, because it's fun. So let's just go for it. So now I'm kind of glad I didn't glue that all the way down because it gives me a little more working room to tuck this. This keeps wanting to tuck under all the layers, but I'm trying to just get it under certain layers. And maybe like that. Okay. Maybe if I trim this so that it follows the shape of the leaf, it'll look like it's meant to end in a little bud. I can maybe get some of this over here. Okay, and then let's see, another piece, maybe. I guess I don't need it to be quite that big. I think it's working as a smaller piece. Just a smaller piece over here. And I can go ahead and cut off this stem. I don't think that needs to be there. Okay, and then this I'll set in my little bin in case I need a small piece later. Okay, so that did not solve my ornament hanging dilemma, but I found some cool extra embellishments while I was over there. Do I want to add in the silver? The tone of this spool and these scissors is not silver. Will that be a big deal? Probably not. So you know what? I'm just going to do it. That is the name of my embellishing game today. Just do it. Okay, I'm gonna cut off 3 of these. I think I'm gonna grab, do I have it? I've been moving a couple of things around in my room. Oh, there they are. For a minute there, I thought I moved my hole punches, but no, they were just underneath some of the other punches. Okay, let's get this stuff out of the way so the camera doesn't get too busy. And I'm gonna come in and hole punch, maybe, hole punch these ornaments so that I can physically put the twine through there. Oh, that one feels crooked, but oh well. And I tell you, this would have been a better thing to do before I glued them down. Okay, speaking of glue, let's glue this fiber in place. I don't think it'll need a lot of glue. but the glue is going to kind of seep through the fiber a little bit, so you definitely don't want to stack anything on top of this until it's completely dry. I mean, you don't have to worry about that, but I do. If you use ribbons and you use liquid glue, that is a tip, is make sure that you don't put anything on top of it until it's 100% dry, because fabric does let the moisture kind of bleed through, and that can cause problems. Okay, let's get this one up here. Maybe, nope, definitely was going this way. Oh, there we go. I think that did it. Yeah, now I'm not sure which leaves. Okay, that is one of the leaves I put glue on. It doesn't take too long for the glue to adhere, but you do have to give it a sec. Okay, I do feel like after all that talk of trapped space, I do kind of feel like this space is getting more and more trapped as I'm working. So maybe I can think about that before we're done for the day. Okay, with these, I'm just gonna fold it in half with a loop up here. I'm gonna put the loop through the hole in my ornament, if it'll go through that tiny hole. Yes. And then I will thread the tails of my loop through the loop itself to create that tag, and I definitely don't need that much extra. So I used to try and conserve my fibers and cut them as short as I possibly could to get what I needed to do done, but I would end up spending so much time struggling with trying to tie a bow or trying to get things through these holes like I'm doing here, and it just wasn't worth, you know, the savings of the money on the materials, because the time and the aggravation definitely did not make up for it. Okay, so this one is awfully long. I think I will cut this one down a little bit. Oh my. Okay. I'm gonna have to do this. Nope. I'm having a hard time. Almost. It's starting to split. Okay, we'll see if that's gonna be okay. It did start splitting the fibers of the twine, but that part's not going to be seen very much when I pull it tight. So I think that will be okay. Now, part of what I'm thinking is adding some little homemade bows onto areas as well. And this is where I'm like, I have these leftovers, I can do something with them, but they are so small that it's probably going to be a pain to tie them into bows, and I want to do it anyway. Okay, I might need to give up on this and just cut myself some new lengths so that I don't drive myself crazy, but oh my goodness. When you can get little embellishments like this, just these cute little bows, then it seems worth it. Sometimes it just does. Okay, can I put that on there? I think I can. Okay, I am not going to do all of these on camera, but that is the idea for making some little bows to add. And I think I will add a couple of little bows down here to help fill in this space because it is feeling very trapped to me. But other than that, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. And I'm looking at the clock and we're doing good on time. So that is a good thing. And I will give you a peek at what all of this looks like layered up. So what do you think about those succulents? Do you think they're blending in enough to hide on a Christmas layout? Let's see. You can see some of that other rub-ons there. Didn't do much else over here, but we've got that ornament down there. And then remember, I'm still going to add some of these bits on as well. All right, that is going to wrap up the layout for this time. Let me come on back over here. I see a little bit of a mess in my background on my screen. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed playing along with me and watching me go from 0 to 60 in about an hour and a half. It would be nice if it were 60 minutes and I can go to 0 to 60 literally. Layouts don't have to be hard. I think a lot of the times we just overthink. I am an overthinker for sure, and part of this project is definitely helping me learn to overthink less. I can't say never, but to overthink less. So I hope you got something interesting out of this project and that some of my tips and tricks and life thoughts will help you in your own scrapbooking world, or at least make you not feel alone in the struggles that you struggle with like I do. I will be back for my next live stream is my Advent All Year project, where it has nothing to do with Christmas besides the fact that I got all of the goodies from an Advent calendar, all the crafty goodies from an Advent calendar, and I use those crafty goodies on a card project, and that will be happening on, I did not write it down. Let me take a peek at my calendar. Main tabs. My calendar is in there. That's happening on June 26th at 4 p.m. Pacific. So that is my Advent All Year calendar project where I use my Spellbinders Advent Calendar of Supplies, which are mostly dies, and none of them are Christmas related. And I use those products to create a new card in a bit of an unexpected way. That one is more pre-planned, so you will watch me share the project with you as we go. Okay, thank you for being here. I appreciate anybody who's on replay, and leave me a comment because I do love reading your comments, and I know you could be spending your time in a lot of places, so thank you for being here. And with that, I will say